Hello, can you please confirm you can hear me and you can see me well? I'm trying to organize my camera here, but for some reason there is some connection problem and it keeps disconnecting. So it's just the cable. Hello, Stephen, Hector, Patricia, Simona. I saw Edithiel was the first one saying hello. Very nice, Israel. Very nice to have you all, Mark. Wonderful. I was just thinking of what are we going to talk about? And I saw a scene on TV that reminded me of a very, very strange experience that I had. I wanted to share my experience with you. It was some time ago, but I could never forget. It was very impactful. And it has to do with this thing of the evil eye, how the look of others, the eyes of others, and how others see affect us. And I think there's a lot of superstitions and exaggerations behind it, but there are some truths. So my idea was sharing some of it with you, and then we can discuss your experiences and the folklore, myths, and facts. Sounds good to you? Yes. Some of you I see here that I have not seen before, so you are with me for the first time. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure for me. I am Nancy Trevelato, and here we are going to discuss about spiritual matters that are interacting with our life in everyday moment, but we want to see all of the different phenomena, spiritual phenomena, as a natural thing. So we want to understand it scientifically and want to bring it to a level that we can handle, we can deal with, and we can understand what we experience. So that is the challenge. And that is why today we are going to discuss about this idea of the eyes of others and how others seeing us would affect us. My experience, I told you I was going to share an experience, was one that, when just this type of what do you say, like a bulk email, when one sent to another and sent to another, and I know there is a name for this, so produces like a chain of emails that people keeps sending and sending. Today is no emails, right? It's TikTok and it's Instagram, but it became viral, a given email. So a friend of us sent us an email. It was to the IAC, the International Academy of Consciousness, and look, this phenomenon, look what it is. And I opened the image that was attached. And the image was just a girl, perhaps around teenager, 15, 16, and they did some deformation in her eyes, like with Photoshop or something that was not so obvious what it was. So maybe just making it bigger, more far apart, or something that was not immediately noticeable, but would bring a strange feeling. But this strange feeling was not so much by the looks, because I paid a lot of attention to see what was strange in there. The strange thing behind it was the energy that came with it. And the energy was like, bam, immediately I felt like horror, fear, threatened. But of course, I knew there was just an image and that was nothing. But in spite of that, when we talk about energy, we are not talking about something rational. Oh, if I am afraid, it's because I don't understand the phenomenon. Sometimes we understand, but we sense an energy that is threatening, which does not mean we are going to feel threatened, feel weak, or feel impotent, or be vulnerable to that in any way. But the information that is coming is of that. Anyways, so I saw it, bam, okay. But during the night, it didn't occur to me to do much of an energy cleansing because there was an immediate impact. And I went back to work, everything was normal. During the night, I had a moment in which I was outside the body and I had some encounter, if I could call in this way, some sort of a being, a presence there that got close with such a not nasty but wicked, I think that is the most precise way of saying, wicked feeling and intention. So I could feel that thing strange. And that individual there, that being, which was somebody in between lives, but started transforming their appearance and started looking like a dog. So that was so strange to me. And I worked with energy and came back to the body. But I came back to the body, and that consciousness, I still could feel close to me, like in the bedroom. But then I sit in the bed, I sit up, and I started, just pulsing energy out, like emitting energy, and it was really short and a little velo. In 10, 15 minutes, I could get rid of those energy. What I'm saying here is, I'm sure not strange to some of you who are just now watching this video, because sometimes we do have experiences like this that we cannot explain exactly what it is. We sense something during the night, or for those of us who are more used to recognizing the out-of-body experience, we would sense something during the out-of-body experience, and it may keep lingering around, that energy, that feeling, after we wake up, and sometimes even when we go through our day, in the following day, for example. So in that case, in the moment that I sit up in bed, when I could observe better what was going on, I noticed that that non-physical presence there, that entity, happened to get close to me because of the impact that I have had with that picture. And then I start thinking, how convenient. To some of these non-physical network, like a mafia of entities or beings that would love to get close to us and make us afraid and have fun, some bullying, and especially draining some specific types of energy. Because when I felt that entity close by, in the non-physical dimension there during the projection, there was a feeling of something erotic, if you understand what I mean. Something sensual, but not in a good sense. I felt like violated, even though the image of what I was seeing was nothing sexual, but the feeling was pretty much like being violated and something strange. So I later understood, convenient, as I was saying, so many people just sent one and another this. The more people see that, the more energy is gravitating around that image, the more this network of non-physical beings, these entities, become stronger and closer to that image. I know it's an electronic thing. It's just digits, right? Zeros and ones that somehow in a computer would appear as an image. I know that. And that is a great, interesting investigation and mystery. How does energy manage to get connected to that? But the fact is that it does. So I saw how important it is that we recognize the moment that we receive the impact, and that we recognize exactly how to work with energies on that moment, because for me it was a big lesson, right? So it was not a very nice experience during the night. Of course, I could get out of it well, but the experience in itself was strange. And I imagine how many people went through similar things, maybe not even very conscious, not even recognizing completely. And for those that they were aware of what was going on during the night, could they defend themselves? Most, of course, we know not. And that was the folklore and the mystery with the eyes, because they tweaked the eyes of the girls. And I see so many horror movies, right? They put like some beings that look like this, and oh, it's very red eyes or something. And that creates a feeling of something not good happening. Is it possible that someone, only with their looks, they would hurt someone else? They would harm someone just by looking? No, not possible, period. However, now let's understand what is behind this so straightforward answer, no. What happens is that when someone looks at us, it creates an energy connection. Greater or lesser, it will depend. In each case is a different thing. But when this energy connection is established, of course, we will get some of that. And usually we end up sharing, exchanging. So therefore, some of our energies go as well. And that is what's the most complex thing when we talk about energy, our subtle energies and our chakras. The most complex is not exactly when we lose energy. So many people, they are worried if they are being vampirized, if they are being drained. That is not the hardest and not what affects us the most. What affects us the most is this exchange. So these horror movies plays with this idea of something wicked in the eyes. Now, let's bring this to our everyday life because we are not dealing with evil beings with red eyes, right? At least not usually. Maybe in some out of bad experience or in some movies we see that. And the impact of that is just to make us afraid. Because when it makes us afraid or it surprises us, like I had the surprises with the image, with the picture of the girl there in that I received through email, the surprise makes us vulnerable. So that is what these people gain. Or someone who look at you and says, you know what? I'm going to curse you. It's not the eyes, it's the intention, it's the energy. But if they look at you like this and intimidate, and you feel more their energies, because that looks so intimidating, not because of the looks only, because of the energy that comes with it, then we become more vulnerable. That is the thing. Now, why am I introducing these and bringing all of these ideas? Because there is something that I would like to talk to you. And that something is, yes, very practical, very much happening in our everyday life, so frequent. It's something that for most of us, we would have already noticed at some points in our lives, and we will notice again. And the thing is, when we are, for example, in a conversation or in a presentation, you are presenting a project, or you decide you want to discuss an important thing with your family, can be anything. When you say, let me say my idea, let me bring my point of view here and put it on the table. Let me make sure I'm heard as well. When you do this and people look at you and people put attention on you, you receive the energy from all of them. Not negative necessarily. It can be of admiration. It can be of attention. It can be of some judgment. But it can be of jealousy. It can be so many different things. And we pick all of that. We do. But usually that is diluted among so many other things. And some of us, we are not that sensitive. It's not so much of being sensitive, but we are kind of more stable. That's not the word I want to use. Like more resilient. Perhaps that is a better choice of word. More resilient to these penetrations of energy on us, to these impact. And some people, frankly, love it. Yes, pay attention on me. Yes, you are. So say something bad about me, but talk about me. Yeah. Bad promotion, how do they say? Bad marketing is also marketing. So, okay. And we see that so much like the area of politics, but not only. So some people, they love receiving the energy of everyone. Okay, it's how they are, it's what's important to them, it's how they handle energy, or it is because there are some spirits, non-physical beings close by that keep receiving that energy as well. And together, I mean, the physical person who loves it and the spirit who use that energy together. I'm not saying this is the case of everyone who loves attention. There can be so many different things. Some people were born natural entertainers. So I'm not putting that under a negative light. But I am using the example when that is not so well balanced, just to make a point so that I can explain the concept that I'm trying to explain. Okay, so let me make this clear. But for those who are more sensitive, and especially who have had some sort of childhood or even experiences, maybe in past lives, that made the person more like self-conscious or with more attention, or somebody who is very demanding with oneself. When anybody look at the individual, like it can be in the workplace, like a boss, a colleague. So let me talk to you. Only that flow of energy causes the person to wish to disappear. Have you ever had that? It's like, oh, if I could, I would enter here quiet, leave without a word, so nobody even notice I'm here, and then I will receive less of this impact. And then someone comes and just say, well, you shouldn't have done this in this way. That is enough to make the person feel down or guilty or like thinking of that 30 times in the day because that keeps lingering in their minds. But why? Because the impact of that information is not only the words. For some people, yes, they feel they are irrepressible. I hope this word exists in English, that they cannot be reprehended or whatever, you understand what I mean. So some people feel that is their condition. Nobody can reprimand them in any way. So that is more of a psychological thing. But in some other cases, it's not psychological, it's energetic. So we need to distinguish what is it that is practical. Okay, I do not want to lose my job, so I do not want anybody seeing me on a bad light. Or I do not want anybody criticizing me because the criticism affects me because I consider I'm perfect or I have to be perfect. So that is more psychological. Or when is it that somebody saying something to me hits me beyond the words, beyond the logics of things. And because of that, I cannot stand some conversations. I cannot stand to speak in public. I feel I cannot in any way to speak up, to show up. Is it your case? I have worked with some people like in private sessions. Good number of people actually. And I can even put myself in that condition as well and see this on my personality or in my personality. But some people that I have worked with in private sessions, they were so sensitive, like they would cry for any small thing. They would feel they could not take some positions in their work. They, for example, they are artists and they feel they cannot do like an exhibition of their art because it's calling too much attention. Because of energetic sensitivity, because of feeling that their boundaries, like their energy field, are kind of losing the natural barrier. They feel exposed, but not only psychologically, energetically. And some may even feel impact in their chakras. Some may feel their stomach, for example, or their throat start becoming sensitive. Others, they will feel headaches. And anyways, just example. But the reason that I am explaining all of this is so that we start recognizing exactly what factor is behind each of these things. And then you can imagine someone who is naturally more shy, or someone who has a position of being a celebrity, some personality that many people know. All of a sudden, the thoughts of everyone about that person and the person picking all of that can be painful. Painful is not only, in the way I mean, is not only because people were saying whatever about me. It's because the impact of the energy of what they are saying can be very, very strong. And just to finalize this idea that I wanted to bring here, imagine it's even some natural exchanging of words and communication. So, for example, I am in a big crowd and there is some sort of, hi, Nancy, hey, good morning. Oh, nice, how are you doing? Natural, right? Which I love, and I believe all of you love as well. But that alone produces some sort of reaction in our energy field because there is a flow, right? There's a communication that is energetic. You receive hello and you acknowledge. And that alone can make someone energetically tired, almost as if the aura it's frictioning, it's molding with every contact. And that explains, in many cases, why some introvert people, they feel like, if I could choose, I'd rather be alone. Are they introvert only in terms of their personality? Or is there something more related to energy behind it? I think it's worth thinking of that. In my case, I was probably, let me think, 25, and I didn't like at all anybody looking at me. I would simply disappear. I would never speak in public. I would never. So me giving a class like this and talking to all of you, and of course I can see you in a way. And when I go to a conference and I present something, sometimes to hundreds of people, I can do that. Is it easy for you, Nancy? Not necessarily easy, not properly easy. But yes, I can do it. Okay, I survive. I manage. I go from beginning to end. I even enjoy. But until I really became good with this technique that I love talking about, which is velo, and I am a first-hand witness of the effects of that. But until I got to practice that technique well, I would still have this situation of, wanting to disappear. My voice wouldn't even be heard. So some people would say, "Hi, this girl, she's so what posh, arrogant, distant." No, I was shy. I was terrified of talking to anybody, and people would misinterpret that. And somebody I would speak, and the volume of my voice was not enough for people to clearly hear what I was saying because I was speaking inwards. When you talk to somebody and instead of you letting your energy flow, you kind of say the words, but bring the energy back, say the words, bring the energy back to you. It's in a way trying to prevent that exchange of energy that only aggravates things. But for some people, they need this as a self-defense mechanism, which is not so much about defense, but like trying to keep some cohesion of their energy field. I wanted to bring this because recalling that experience that I have had and talking to some people about this, I thought so many of us, we may experience this in some cases, or so many of us, we go to a shopping mall or we go to a specific, I'm talking about everyday life things. You go to a specific supermarket or any place and you say, I get drained. I cannot take it. Why is it? What sort of energy exchange? And why is it that sometimes we would rather not to take our position, not to stand up for what we believe and what we would like to say? Because of this, we would rather be quiet. And I'm not saying that we have to say what we think. No, we have to be, of course, with discernment, lucid, diplomatic, understand others. But if we are afraid of the interaction, the energetic interaction, how can we even know if when we are thinking about something, we are thinking with all of the proper arguments. We are using all of our personal principles and values. Or if we are just trying to hide behind something or hide behind an appearance that, okay, I don't mind what you are doing, but I do mind. Anyways, that was the topic that I wanted to bring because I think it may produce some reflection on us and it may help us. I have been studying a lot about the concept of the energy field and how these energies around of us interact, interfere. And one of my most recent studies is what I call the multidimensional force field, because all of us, we have an energy field. But what if not only we can work with our self-defense, good, Velo would help with that. Not only we can also work to balance our chakras, activate, remove blockage, but we could also create some sort of area around of us, therefore a field, in which we would have a so well established information in the energy. So it's an informational energetic pattern there, so well established that it would not be so easy for others to penetrate. So therefore, one day you are there in that conference, you are going to present your work. It's natural. Sometimes we are a little bit nervous. We are thinking about what we are going to say. That is one thing. A completely different thing is for us to be energetically down, energetically afraid, trying to not be seen when there's no other way. We have to be seen. So sometimes when we are going to observe all that, we will see that there is a lack of a well-balanced, energetic, multidimensional force field. And multidimensional here meaning that is a sort of energy that is around of us here in the physical body, but it's also when we are in other dimensions outside the body. It affects the astral dimension in our bedroom, for example. So those are just concepts and ideas that I wanted to bring here for you to think about. May I get your discussions and questions and your points and read here and share with everyone? I think I have a friend here. Juliana is here with us, and she appears there as IAC team for the International Academy of Consciousness. And maybe there are some questions you can help me with, Juliana. I see Etiel here with a question. Thank you. Could you please share some tips on how to do velo in public or in situations where there are lots of distractions around? And also how to do it while engaged in other activities you can't stop. The first part of your question is much easier, Etiel, because how to do velo in public. We need to become familiar with the mental approach we use, because sometimes people are going to do velo and they have to concentrate so much that then it's almost impossible to do anywhere else. In the beginning, it may be required so much of that concentration, but once we concentrate and we know, I pay attention inside of me, I create a pulse, and the pulse is created with my will or with whatever. I mean, I'm putting words into something that you cannot describe with words. So it's a mental approach. It's like if you are cooking, what is your mental approach when you are cooking? You may be cooking in a hurry, you may be thinking of something else. It can be meditative. You may hold a knife like this, and you are very good with the knife to cut in very small pieces your vegetables, or you can be not well skilled. And then you may have to bend a bit, or you would like to have the pieces cut bigger because you do not have a good way with the knife. So you have to find different tools. This is what I mean by mental approach. Once you find out what is the mental approach that you use with velo and that you are being able to do it, that is the key. Because then you are going to be able to do it if you are in a restaurant. I do it. I have already had situations at ETL in which I was, for example, in a meeting, especially in which the one that I keep in mind here that I am remembering. It was a study meeting. And everybody there talking supposedly about very positive spiritual things, but the energy of the place was awful. Because yes, it was in their opinion very positive, very spiritual, but I had to agree with that. I could not agree. So there was a pressure. So I was there respecting whatever those people wanted to believe, but I did not want those energy being pressed on me. So I started doing velo there. Could I do the best of my velo? No, because I had to keep my eyes opened and move and maybe answer one thing here and there. But I did velo the best I could. And wow, that made such a difference, such an impact, because I managed to be with a very vivid, lucid mind throughout the whole event. You know, when people do something that's to manipulate, to force you to say something, or you agree with something that you really don't, or you buy something you didn't want to buy, I managed to go throughout thinking clearly. That is a win. But this is more possible when we learn this approach. Otherwise, other events distract us. So, how to do it in public? I see it, I get a magazine, or I pretend I am hearing some music and nobody's seeing it. Anywhere, anywhere. Or I go there to the side and go sit and get a drink. Oh, let me see the moon is so beautiful. Go a little bit outside. Because we can do velo in, I mean, talking, standing, we can, but it's not as effective because hardly it's going to be as deep. Have you ever had experience like this? You guys there who are with me, like when you do your velo at home, you do some pulses, and if there is any intrusion or contamination of energies, you feel and that goes away. But then, if we are feeling that contamination, something is strange, and we start doing velo, but we cannot do with the most efficient way, with all of the tools, value tools that we have already trained with, then it's like we go, gets a little better. But the source of the energy that was there disturbing, it's still in our energy field. So when I cannot do perfect, I do what I can, I go to a side and whatever. Because if you are doing correct and you keep practicing, you do not need a long time. We practice for a long time because it's practice. That is the point. We are practicing. We need to train. But if you are in a party and you sense the energies get strange, you got something, some energy, you are feeling down, and you want to work with energy to get clean of that, you can get clean quickly. You can remove that energy quickly with Velo. Why? Your whole focus is on that. Go to the toilet, period. But when you ask me here, the second part of your question, how can I do Velo with an activity that I cannot stop? Then, thank you, Juliana. Why you engaged in other activities you cannot stop? How to do it? That is hard because the idea of Velo, you put all your attention there. But my suggestion is if it's not an activity that is dangerous, you are not going to do that. If you are, fixing a cable, electrical cable that is there on the roof of your house, you're not going to do it. Or if you are driving. But if the activity is not dangerous, you do as well as you can. But you must know that Velo is not going to be as effective as one that you are with your full mind there. I have tried all of these things, and I can do Velo walking and talking. But if somebody tells me it's all the same, I question inside of myself if the good Velo of that person is really good. Because I cannot imagine myself doing Velo with full concentration, which sometimes I do at home. I sit and it's 30 seconds, I'm not feeling well, 30 seconds before I start eating, for example. In the house, by the way, I am in Sao Paulo, I am in my brother's house. So each day I am in a different place. But for 30 minutes, 30 seconds, I'm sorry, I meant 1 minute I'm there working and I manage to do it. But if I cannot, then I'll do as is possible. But if you guys practice, that Velo well done is different than the one so. I, I still cannot think that one would be the same, unless there's nothing invading. Of course, if I am in perfect condition, I do zip, zip, zip. Even not very well done, I can even reach a vibrational state. Well, why? Everything is clean, there's no challenge. But if there is some contamination of energy or some entity not so positive close by or something like this, we will need a good Velo. It was a long answer for Eretiel's or to Eretiel's question, but I thought this is so important for you guys to have a reference. What is good value? How often should I do when I am outside? Is it dangerous? Nancy, how do you do? So I tried to bring some of my experience, which is not perfect, but it's a reference for you. Okay? That's why I explored that in depth. Thank you. Hi, Andy. It's been some time I don't see you here. Very nice to have you. Is it good to watch this talk amidst all the chaos of sadness in my country? I had one question. Have any parts of the astral realm been mapped? Sorry if it's irrelevant. No, it's relevant, absolutely relevant. So let me go to the first part of your question then, and then I comment the second. Juliana, you please keep that separate for me for you to bring later if I need. But the first time, is it good to watch this talk? My talk here, you mean, right? Amidst all the chaos and sadness in my country, I do not know what your country is, and but I imagine these countries that have been now in so difficult condition with the earthquake or with these wars we have all around. I imagine so, right? I think it is worth. I think we have to keep studying. I think we have to keep connecting because even if you lock yourself inside your bedroom alone, you are connecting energetically and mentally with other consciousnesses, with other beings. So you'd better know who you are connecting with, because if we start isolating ourselves or being selective in a way that is not natural, instead of helping, it may aggravate. Because then, especially those spiritual presence that would come close by, they may end up establishing a much stronger connection with us. So my suggestion, my recommendation, to the best of my knowledge, is yes, it's a talk that it's neutral, perhaps even pleasant. Our talk here, I hope so. It's discussing about facts that are beyond physical life, which alleviates a bit, because if we think life is only what we see here, there is such a pressure. You have to get a job, you have to have a very happy relationship, and then you have to have very successful kids, and then you have to have a big car, and then you have to have a career, and then I'm going to make a joke here, being a woman, and then you have to wear high heels and all of the pressure that we get. So I think it's interesting, but I also think we have to remember we are establishing contact. So when we are talking here and they, we are establishing some contact. You and I and everyone here. But when we are with a group of friends, when we go to a whatever, a pub or a party or even just a reunion, we are connecting with that group, with that specific egregore, atmosphere, information in the energy of that group. So I think that's a very, very relevant thing. And the second part of your question, thank you, Juliana, was, has the astral realm been mapped? No, I don't think so. There is a rough mapping, rough as if, just to make an analogy with the physical dimension. Let's say you would explain to someone there are oceans and what you have there is water. It's basically HO2, but with loads of different minerals and planktons and micro beings. Okay, so that is the ocean, but you also have hills, and then you have some mountains that they are stone mountains, but others they are just, what is the word, dunes. It's sand. When you explain that, you are not giving an address, you are just giving a general characteristic of places, but you do not know which place is that or how to get there. In this case, when you are outside the body, you would for example, know I am in a denser dimension, in a lighter dimension, but you do not know exactly a mapping. So that is the equivalent. And I see here that you are sharing, you are from Turkey. How painful, right? And I can imagine seeing all of the sadness. And of course, if we feel and we do not have a direct connection, I can imagine you. Thank you, Ande, for being with us. And I feel so honored that in a moment like this, you would be with us here in this talk. You would share your energy and share your thoughts and your questions. That for me means a lot. And I know what you mean because sometimes we feel even a little bit guilty, right? People are there crying and dying. And I'll be here talking about spiritual growth. It's almost as if we are pampered. We are, just allowing ourselves to be privileged in an unfair way. And believe me, I have felt that so many times. But unfortunately, what can we do? The only thing you can do at this point is emit energy, but you choose one moment. So I will emit energy. To whom? To the whole country, to everyone that is in need, but without fixating on the sadness. You have to focus on the emotional support, energetic support. You see the difference? Because if you connect with the sadness, you will be caught into the sadness that is there. But if you connect with the work of very important, for example, spiritual mentors, very important, I mean, very balanced, very wise, entities, spirits that definitely are supporting, of course, because that's their task. I'm not going to say that's their job, but in a way, yes, that's what they do. So they are there. So the moment that you emit energy and you connect with them, almost as if you would put a white clothes, like uniform, I do not know what to say, like a doctor's uniform or nurse's uniform, and you go there. You cannot sit and start crying. Every time you see somebody crying, you are there as a doctor. You go and you act, you pull people out, you help, you put a band-aid, a bandage. So that is your job. You can try and help with energy, but put yourself among the group that is working, acting to support. And believe me, I cannot say for everyone, and I cannot, account for each specific individual. There are so many different conditions. But in situations like this, there are many non-physical beings that they offer all support. Like here, doesn't people appear from anywhere to support in the rescue? What do you think is extra physically? There's a lot of different teams in the rescue, including astroprojectors, lucid conscious astroprojectors, who would be available, who would be at conditions of being there to help. And I'm certain there are so many. I don't remember being there in this specific event. I have participated in others, not in this specific event. But I can say that based on what I have seen and I have heard in so many different accounts I've heard, yes, there are projectors helping, there are spirits helping, and those are the ones you connect with. And then you send hope, you send love, you send illumination. Yes, you are sad, but you are not offering sadness. And you are not offering happiness, but you are offering support. Look at the difference. So I hope this gives you a way of handling that. Thank you, Ande. Yes, perfect. Thank you. I'm reading your comment here. Thanks, Ande, for being with us. And then I have other questions. Juliana, you are following there the list. Lufeo, hello. Can you explain how to read in minds? Like I am waiting with my mind empty, but is that enough? I'm going to read again, okay, to see if I get better what your question is. Can you explain how to read in minds? Like I try waiting with my mind empty. But is that enough? That is not enough. And in some cases, depending on what you are trying to do, which is not clear for me here, we don't leave our mind empty, but on the contrary, we focus. The problem here, if I kind of get a feeling of where you are going to, problem is that sometimes there's something we want to achieve. You are doing like a technique, or you are trying to get some specific information, but we focus so much that we look for the information. We don't look for the information, we just look in the right direction. Look at the difference. So sometimes there are techniques that they help you focus, they help you pay attention to a certain angle of the reality. But if you look at certain angle, for example, you want, like we were just talking about Turkey, you want to help, but you decide how to, you may not be so effective because you do not know exactly where there are people needing or what's possible to be done, what's the greatest emergency. But when you join the group of supporters, you can do something. So there are techniques that you have to focus, but there are moments in which we have to quiet our own point of view. So it's not so much silencing the mind, but it's quieting our own point of view, because otherwise we kind of keep struggling with what is it that we think, what is our vision of some specific situation, and we do not allow the intuition to come. I am not 100% sure that's what you meant, but I believe that gives you some ideas. So Ande was sharing that the comments are incredibly helpful. Thank you, Ande. My pleasure, my pleasure. And I'm sure this gives idea to so many of us in so many different conditions when we want to make a difference. I believe so many of us, we want to make a difference, right? Eretiel is helping here. No? What does velo mean, please? You take a look. Gurinder, welcome Gurinder here with us to the channel. Take a look at a video that I have that is called What is Velo? So that's an easy one for you to find. With Nancy Trevelato, okay? Because that's a method I created. So it will be there. Simona, how nice to have you here, Simona. Thank you. And you say, could you please comment how an imbalanced in one's energy body leads to the kind of behavior you described? In particularly, a strong imbalance between the right and the left sides of the energy body. I do not know exactly which behavior you are talking about. Can you comment there and help me, Simona? You mean when people try to close themselves, not to allow the exchange of energy? Is that the point or the comment of mine you are referring to? Because if that is the point you are referring to, that is an easy thing to comment. And it's not so much related to the side of the bodies, because sometimes, so let me go step by step here in the answer. And even if that was not, yes, so good. You answered yes, thank you. So now let's go step by step. We have some specific reactions in our energy that sometimes, and I even have a video in which I comment some of that, it's almost as if our energy could feel pain. It's really something that can even affect our physical body in some cases, but sometimes it doesn't get to the physical body, but we feel that pain and discomfort. Shy people, and I could enlist myself there. I am a shy person in recovery still, but I am getting there. But shy people, they tend to be so used to pick different type of energies that they kind of try to protect themselves by reducing the diversity of information that would come to them. And this is very common, Simona. Not necessarily it's a straight relation, but it's there is a connection and very common with children who have been sensitive. So when as child we feel more of this non-physical reality, presences, the energy of others, that can create so much of this. And sometimes there are children, and maybe the case of some of you, that are quite extrovert and happy, but then start becoming more sensitive or change from one house to another, like move from one house to another. And by moving, goes to a place with completely different type of energy. And the child starts sensing that energy that is not as comfortable and start closing oneself. And it becomes almost like a self-defense mechanism, but in a not so good way, like an automatic reaction. And the automatic reaction with shyness is one that the more we allow it to establish, the harder it is for us to open up. And there are ways in which we can start working with that and practicing. There are different strategies. The strategies will vary a little from one person to another. Simona, if you are in my mailing list, you are going to receive information that now, by end of this month, mid-March, I am starting the multidimensional force field. Why am I mentioning that? Because that course will work a lot on our self-defense in reinforcing our field, but we will work a lot on us recognizing some aspects of our personality. It's almost like a therapy, but I'm not there with you. I'm giving you the tools you are applying, and I follow you like in a mentoring from time to time. So that is the strategy of the course. And I think that would help you because, as I was saying, sometimes that shyness will produce some characteristics in adults. Today I had a in-person session here in São Paulo with so nice gentlemen. A guy that has and have had out-of-body experience many times, but he still thinks he could be better. So he's not a person full of pride in a negative way or vain. No, he's so humble, but has had so many experience, has done so much with energy, but he's shy. And that stops him from being here in the physical world, who he is when he is outside the body. Outside the body, he can be outspoken. He can put his energy to produce phenomena. He can use his energy for self-defense. Here, he tends to absorb the impact and frankly get the rubbish of others and go home with the rubbish, energetic rubbish of others. So that is a mechanism that we create, and we do not know how we create it. It's almost like a wish to become less sensitive, a wish to sense less the thoughts of others, the different energies in places we go. And because we do not know how to do it, and I'm speaking for myself, but maybe it is similar to some of you there who are with me, that wish of becoming less fragile, at least we feel like that, by wishing that we start blocking our own perceptions. But eventually we get the sensitivity back and the shyness is there. So we just remain with the shyness and we let go of the perception. We let go of the awareness, of the psychic awareness to some extent, to close ourselves, and then we become shy and we perceive less of the world. That is the opposite of what I try to do and produce with the velo technique, in which what I see the technique does makes us stronger, we can face more, we can sense more, we become more aware, but on the other hand, we are more, almost like with a buffer. We have a buffer zone, not around of us, it's inside of us, it's in our energy body here inside, but that makes a huge difference. I know you work with Velo, right, Simona? So I hope you see some difference with that. And that is a key part for all of this we are saying. Perhaps I get one or two more questions. Okay. Patricia, hello. Is velo safe to do in the company with others? Example, waking up at night and, of course, lying in bed with a partner or children nearby. Can the intrusion latch on to, example, children? No, you can do velo. Absolutely, yes. You can do velo if you are in a bus, if you are in a public transportation. You can do beside your partner, no problem at all. Velo, it's you with you, only your own energy field. Now you imagined, okay, the answer is absolute. Yes, you can. There are no exceptions. But now let me explain. You guys know that I like to explain the whys, right? Let me explain some subtleties of this. Let's say that you become a person who is very strong energetically. No, not energetically. I will change my example. Let's say you become a person who is so big and tall with big muscles. When you enter, usually it's going to be a man, right? So now we women we have that disadvantage. Hardly will be that one. But okay, you are a strong man with a great voice. And you enter an environment, you say, hello, does anybody need help here? Everybody's, okay, I'm not going to mess with this guy. Now you imagine that, energetically speaking, you learn value, you become the same. You enter in a place and you are like, anybody need help here? You're not saying it, right? I'm just joking. But energetically speaking, that's what it becomes. You will see with time, I'm not saying you do one or two videos, with the transformation the value will create in your energy field with time, and that's what we want. There will be a condition, for example, that you are in a family reunion, but because you are there, things are a little bit more settled than they would have been if you were not there. Do you understand what I mean? And what is the idea behind this? The idea is that when you are doing velo in the middle of the night, you just woke up and you are just practicing, absolutely do it. It's only going to help. But let's say you are doing velo because there is an intruder, like a entity that came with you from a projection, like the experience I described in the beginning here. If you did not hear the beginning of our talk, you go back on replay and you see it for you to understand what I'm talking about. But you came back from an astral projection, there is an entity there, and you have to do your velo, you have to work with that. Other times it's not velo, you are going to do some specific type of emission of energy. But let's say you are doing velo to start, just to start. But that entity is there. If you do nothing, it's worse. The entity already found a way to get to your bedroom. Does that mean that entity is going to be there forever? No, no, not necessarily. It may, but not necessarily. Why not? Because for that entity to be there and gives you trouble by just being there, there is a need for the energy field in your bedroom, for example, in your house, or of you, your husband, your family, to have such an information that allows the anchoring of that entity there. So that is a complexity that we have to understand. But that is one thing that normally is not the case. That entity will come, we will stay there for some hours or some days. But it may become more integrated. So then I'm not going to try the out of body experience. It doesn't help at all. Why? Because we have out of body experience, unconscious ones. Because out of body experience is natural, we cannot avoid. And most of the times we have experience we don't remember. In my opinion, the most intelligent thing is to understand these things that I am explaining. And this is a nice question that helps me explain that. So when you come and you do velo, you are reinforcing your field and you are showing a way, hey, here, I can handle and I know what is related. What is it that binds the physical world with the astral world? And by doing that, some of these entities may try to stop you, right? But it's not the velo that is the problem. It's not the out-of-body experience that is the problem. It's the fact that sometimes these things happen. But you are doing your velo. You are practicing. By all means, you can do. It's no problem at all. Your energy, no energy enters, and your energy don't get out. But you will become eventually that presence that settles things, Nobody's going to create a mess in an environment where the big guy is. So that is, in a way, to some extent, what happens with us energetically. Does that clarify a bit? I hope so. I hope so. I have to stop, but I'm going to get one more question if we have. Lufel, last life you talked about doing velo in lucid dream, but how? Because there is no real body in dream, and how it help doing astral projection because there is no real body. So you are in a lucid dream and you start moving your energy. You are not in astral body, right? Or at least not in that place. That place is only in your imagination. But sometimes we are floating above the body and we are dreaming. You start doing velo there, you will wake up floating above the body, or you will be more in control of your lucidity and you manage to expand your lucidity because the condition of our energy body as a whole, our chakras, the energetic interface, and our lucidity outside the body and how we can handle the experience, it's a direct relation. Exactly this. So the more we can manage energy, the more we can do. So if you are in a lucid dream and you remember of velo, one of the two things will happen. You will wake up in your body, or you will wake up outside, or you become more lucid and you will see other things for you to do. Many people, they think they are in a lucid dream, but they are in an out-of-body experience. So by doing velo, we increase our lucidity, our awareness in that event, and we recognize that's an out-of-body experience. So there are many different reasons for me to suggest you to do that, but not necessarily to do velo there because it's a dream, right? So your point taken and well said, but the idea was not for the velo to happen, but for that to effort to increase your lucidity and then something changed in that point. I hope I could explain. I know sometimes some of these explanations, if we think in terms of the physics of the physical world, it doesn't make sense. I remember once that I was discussing, well, this was 30 years ago, but I was discussing the basic technique of moving energy up and down, which is part of what we use in Velo. And I was discussing with a friend. And the person said, but if you have a negative energy and you start moving, you are going to spread that in your energy body instead of cleansing it. And I started thinking, I was not as knowledgeable, of course, as today, but somehow I said, but is that coffee and milk that you mix and it becomes one thing? And my point was well said there, because for me it didn't make sense, but I did not know how to explain. Today I know, because it is all energy, it's all mixed, but they are different components. It's almost as if the energies they don't match, they don't feel attached. That's why sometimes we may have an energy blockage, for example, in a chakra, and in the other chakra is all okay. But why is it that it does not distribute? If our energies are circulating through chakras all over our bodies, because there is an energy field very well established in that specific chakra. And that's how energy works. It's strange to say, it doesn't follow the physical world. So it's more or less this. I see some people that just joined. Cyril, very nice. Oh, that's the last question, okay. because I see here people moving and I am a guest, so I have to follow the rhythm of the house as well. You are doing a great work. Thank you, Gurinder, so much. If schools and children were taught this, we would all have a better future for the next generation. I believe so. I do not know if you know Gurinder, but I have done a very vast, robust research about children who are sensitive or who were, adults today who are sensitive children, to try and find patterns and ways of discussing these with proper seriousness, helping parents support their children because sometimes parents do not know what to say. Oh, it's just a dream, it's your imagination. No, baby, that doesn't exist. There are parents that they are super terrified of the spirit world because they have sensed things in the past. They know they exist. They do not know how to handle. And then the child comes and say, I thought there was somebody in my room last night. What parents say? No, 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 this doesn't exist. Don't be afraid. And that's the worst thing to say to a child because makes the child doubt themselves, feel guilty, repress their experiences. This is so, I mean, just this I'm saying so simple and it could help so much. And I really believe if we could teach even the basics of energy in schools, like how you see somebody yawning and then you start yawning, or you see someone who is sad and you feel the sadness inside of yourself. You really do. Even if we started only with small steps like this, would make such a difference. So I totally agree with you. And I have to stop here, my friends, but I'll be back next Saturday. And please leave on the comments what you would like me to discuss and your questions, and I will get back to you and I will bring more topics here for us. For now, I say goodbye. Make sure you are listed to receive my newsletter and my mailing list. I've sent very few emails, but I will keep you informed of some new projects and new courses and new ideas that you may be interested in. Okay? So I just want to make sure you are informed. That's all. Big hug to you. It was very nice having you here and feeling this talk, real one, with each other. Goodbye. Thank you. Bye bye, guys. Ciao.